Hey, welcome back everybody. So we are going to work on making a grid in Adobe Illustrator. And grids are how we set up everything when we're doing anything that's like a full page, a full poster or something. We've got to have some kind of structure to it. So this is just a quick reminder on the parts of a grid. So we can see what we're setting up. We're going to be setting up margins, which is that outside part of a grid. Okay, flow lines are these alignments that we're going to set up that go across horizontally. Okay, we'll be setting up columns, which are these vertical divisions of space that we use to organize things. Okay, rows are our horizontal divisions of space that we're going to create with our grid. Okay, and when we set up rows and columns, we set up gutters, which are the space that is in between the rows and columns. Okay, when we set up a grid, we're going to be setting up individual units of space, and those are just called modules. So they're just little spaces that we create that are broken up by the grid that we make. Okay, and with those modules, we can create these spatial zones that are, when we connect these spaces together, these individual modules, we can make these larger spatial zones out of these. And they're all aligned with each other because we're using our grid, and you can kind of make any little combination of them. And we can fit all sorts of different things in there, pictures, text, all sorts of things. Okay, so let's do a basic kind of setup here with the grid and margins and all that. So let's just go ahead and open up a letter size paper. So I'm just going to double click on letter here. You can also go to create new, but this is fine. Here's my document. Let's say I need to put something on this. Could be anything. Could be used for like a little poster or flyer. Let's say, yeah, it could be that. It could be a page for whatever, something for a magazine or something. Doesn't really matter. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is hit Command R. Command R. And that's going to get me my ruler. You can also go to View and Ruler and show ruler or hide ruler right there. But my Command R is the way to go. And here it's got it in these little increments, and that doesn't help me very much. I don't think in terms of points, I think in terms of inches. So you can use whatever measurement works for you, centimeters, if you want, or whatever. But for me, inches are kind of how I think about with paper and all that sort of thing, and when I'm printing things. Okay, so here's my ruler. There we go. First thing I need to decide on what size margin I want. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see what's going on, maybe a little bit out. And I'm going to bring down a guide. Okay, so I'm just on layer 1 here, and the guides will actually go there. And I have to decide, like, do I want a wide margin of like 1 inch and have this really fat kind of margin going on? Or do I want to have a little more narrow, which would be, 1/2 inch would be pretty narrow. 1/4 inch would be just almost not even there at all. So that's like just about too small. I mean, unless you wanted something very, very thin for some reason. Again, 1/2 inch, pretty small. So, I don't know, 3/4 inch is pretty healthy. Okay, now here's the thing. I'm using a stylus or a pen or a Wacom tablet. And when I lift off, it always just moves slightly. So I have to kind of zoom in to be a little more accurate with it. So I'm going to stay zoomed in and go up and drag the guide on the bottom one now. I have to think, okay, and sometimes it's hard for me to tell what's going on here when I'm too zoomed in. This is 10, this is 11. Okay, so 3/4 would be right there. So I'm going to go ahead and click, drag down, and let go right there. Zoom out, take a look. That looks good. And go ahead and add my vertical margin over here. So I'm going to go ahead and click, and I'm going to drag it over. And I'm looking for that 3/4 inch mark. There we go. Now, your margins, do they have to be even? Most of the time, yes. So here we go. Let me get this one real quickly. Does that look right? No, that's too wide. What am I thinking? That was 1 inch. All right, here we go. Let's try that again. There we are. I knew something looked wrong. Again, messed up. When I lifted off the pen, That looks pretty good. And go. There we are. All right, cool. There we are. So do they have to be all 3/4 all the way around? Well, not necessarily. You could mess with the margins, but I mean, for starting out, I would definitely keep them the same. You would have to be doing some pretty crazy grid work and really know what you're doing to kind of make your left and right margin different. Now, the left and right margin different from the top and bottom, I would say that could work if you kept the top and bottom the same. But generally, to start out, I would keep them all the same. Okay, so here we go. We now have a margin. This is our most basic thing we need to do anytime we lay out any document, any poster, anything. You need some sort of margin. And this is going to start guiding everything. This gives us alignment. We can now align things to the left or to the right. We now have a top and a bottom to put things in. This is a very basic. This isn't even a grid. This is just a margin, but that's the bare minimum you need to do. Now, does this mean you can't go out of your margin? With certain things you can. So text generally will stay lined up in the margin. Okay? Graphics can totally go out. I mean, even text could go out if you use it more like a graphic. But just as a basic rule of thumb, okay, maybe I want to color the whole page, right? That could go out of the margin. I could color the whole page and put a background here. And maybe my whole page is going to be, I don't know. Maybe it'll be gray for now. Let's actually pick gray instead of making the stroke gray. There we are. And now I got a gray. Now that's out of the margin. That's fine. Okay. The text is what we'd want to keep in the margin. But let's go ahead and turn that off because it makes it hard to see. And here you can see, if I open up the layers, you can see the guides in there. And that's kind of helpful because you can lock them if you need to, make things on different layers. You can get rid of them if you need to. You turn them on and off real quickly by turning the whole layer on and off and all that. Okay, so there is our basic margin. No matter what size document, you need to have some sort of margin to guide your text. So let's add some other details to this. Let's make it actual kind of grid here. We'll go basic grid. So the next obvious way to break this up would be just to put a line or a gutter in the middle. Okay, if we want to add a middle to this, and we could get 2 columns. Again, very basic layout. Let's go ahead and do that. And so we need to find the middle of our document up here. Okay, so let's go ahead, and we've got a piece of paper, which is going to be 8.5 inches across this way. So to find the middle of that, right, half of 8 would be 4, and half of a half would be 1/4. So that would be right there. Let me see. Let me zoom in and see if I got it. Pretty close. Let me see if I can get a little closer, because I can zoom in here and I can still drag from the side there and go right there. Okay. Okay, now we've got 2 columns. Now the problem is, if I were to add text here, let's go ahead and make a column of text. Okay. Okay, now I want to make another column of text. Let's just duplicate this to get it over there. They run into each other, so we need that gutter. Okay, we need that gutter. So go ahead and delete that. And we need to decide how big to make the gutter. Now, again, an obvious choice would be to make it the same width as the margins, but you don't necessarily have to. It could be smaller. And let's see, we've got 3/4 going, so that's going to be a little tricky to find the middle of 3/4, but we can do it. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments at this zoomed in level. So 3 on one side, 3 on the other would be even. So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3. And here's 1, 2, 3. Okay, let me zoom out and take a look. How does that feel? Let me check this real quick. I'm going to make a box to fit in there. Then it would fit there. There we go. We've got even margins. Great. Okay, now for me, that middle guide kind of bugs me. So I'm going to go ahead and find it real quickly and turn it off. Turn it off or throw it away or whatever. There we go. Now I can kind of see what's going on. Now, if I added text in my columns, it wouldn't run into each other. Great. There's my text. And I'm going to go ahead and move the text. Let's move it to a new layer. And this is kind of what how I would organize things. So I'd keep my grid and everything down there. Let's go ahead and put this text here up on layer 2. There it is. That way I can turn it off. So this is a bare minimum grid, with a margin. That's not even a grid. And then the smallest grid we can do is just a 2-column grid. But let's go ahead and give ourselves some modules here to work with. Other than that, we got 2 big ones right now. Let's go ahead and see what else. So the next obvious way to break this up would be to break up in half the other way. So we've got 11 inches going down. So to break this up, we would need to find 5.5. So here's 5. There's my half. Let's see if I can hit it there. Whoa, I thought I hit my guide. Let's go to the right layer and try that again. All right, there's 5.5. Okay, there we go. And just like we needed to break this up with a gutter over here, the 2 columns, we need to break up these 2 rows now. Now we have 2 rows going horizontally. We need to break that up with a gutter as well. And it's a pretty thick gutter. Should probably made it a little thinner now that I'm looking at it, but that's okay. We are just practicing. 2, 3, and that's all like aesthetic choices you would need to make when you're making your document, is how thick to make your gutters and your margins and all that stuff. All right, so there we are. We got a few more. Let's see them. Okay, that's that one right there. And where are these ones? Okay, there it is. I want to get rid of that middle one once again. Whoops, not that one. I got rid of the wrong one. There we are. There we are. Okay, cool. Okay, now we've got 4 modules here, and we can continue breaking this up if we want to. So I guess the next obvious way would just be to break these in half again, break this in half again. But I don't think I need to break the columns up any thinner. That would be starting to get really thin, but I could break up these sections into a couple more modules. So let's go see if we can do this here. So let's see how much space we have here. So we got to find the half from this top section, this bottom section. Now that's a little trickier now because everything's kind of getting a little uneven here. So let's see what I got. I got 1 there. So let's find a half. Let's go. I'm going to have to count these segments here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I got 35. So half of 35 would be, it's going to be, obviously it's an odd number. So we're going to have 15, 16, 17 and a half. So we got to break up, find a half here. So let's go 1, 2. 17 and a half is right there. Right below that 3. Okay, so let's see if I hit it closely enough here. I think I hit it pretty close. Okay, and if I want to test it out, let me test it out and go make a shape here. Good, okay. Looking good, looking good. All right, cool. So while I've got that here in my head, 17 and a half, I'm going to go ahead and break it up down here as well. Seventeen and a half is right there. I should have kept that shape, but that looks correct. All right, there we are. We've got some more sections going on here. Now we got to give these a gutter. Okay, so we know the width of the gutter, and they're going to be pretty thin little modules here. And this is where I think I should have probably made my gutters a little thinner. Let's see. So I got 1, 2, 3. So I'm having to count between my measurements here. 1, 2, 3. There we are. Now I can get rid of that middle one if I can find it. Oh, I gotta turn these all on. I messed them up here. Let's see. Okay, that one's off. Let's move you to the bottom so I know to keep you off. Move you to the bottom. There we are. So as you can see, it might get a little tedious trying to find everything, but you know, that's just the way it is. Okay, so let's see. Okay, that one's good. That one's good. That's going to be the one I want. I'm going to move that to the top so I know where it is, because eventually that one's going to go off. Okay, so let's zoom in. And I'm going to get to 1, 2, 3. Then 1, 2, 3. There we are. Move you to the bottom. All right, there we go. We have got a basic grid here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 modules. We got the gutter down the middle, and we can start laying out a page here. So let's go ahead and do like a fake little mock-up of how we would use this grid here. So let's go ahead. Let's turn on our fake text. Maybe it's an article or something. And I want a heading or a picture or something up in the top. So we want to stay out of this top section here. Now I could do it like that and put a heading over here. That would totally work. Let's just do that setup for now. So it's got a long article, and we want to reserve this one module for our heading. And we'll type in heading of article. So obviously we want to use a little bit of our graphic design knowledge and give it some emphasis. Now I could make it, I could do all sorts of things with this heading. Let's zoom in. I can line it here to the, and I don't want it to line up right with that line there. Now I can see now when I made the text box, it's a little bit off, but I want it to be right against it. Doesn't matter what the text box does. It matters how we want it to look. And I could leave it like that, lined up to the left. I could go ahead and make the text larger so it fills the space and it hits both edges. Let's see what that looks like. And to do that, I'm going to have to mess with my sizes here. So let's go ahead and take this, make it a little larger. Now I can either make it, let's go ahead and make it one bigger, and then I can change the tracking and make it fit there. That's one way to kind of get it to fit. Okay. And maybe I have a little subheading down here. So let's go ahead and I'm going to take this here. I'm just going to bring this up. Okay, maybe I have a subheading. So now how would I align my subheading? Let's go ahead and go a little text box there. And let's bring our text back down to normal size. Or maybe I want a little larger. Maybe I still want to create some hierarchy here, and I want this to be my smallest text at 12. And maybe I want this to be a little smaller, my medium kind of size text for a subheading. So let's go ahead and let's try that again, because I want to fill in some lorem ipsum text. Let's see how this works here. Okay, a little subheading there. Maybe I could type it in. I'll type in subheading for the article telling what it is about. Okay, and for a subheading, let's see, maybe we want to make it italicized. Okay, I have to choose whether I want it to break up telling like that, because I quite honestly don't like that a ton. So maybe I'm going to go here. Maybe I'm going to make it a little smaller. There we go, the black arrow. So it kicks telling down there. And now where would I put this in the box? I could line it up and I could make it kind of seem like it's part of the heading. Bring the leading a little bit. I could kind of line it up like that, maybe. I could also use the bottom down here, kind of line it up there. But that does look like a lot of space up there. So I think I would just kind of line it up here like that. Okay, let's see. Let's see what this looks like. My little article here. Let's turn off the guides. So I'm going to hit Command and then colon. And there we go. We've got a pretty neat looking page just with that little bit of grid work we did. Things look organized. Obviously, it's a lot of text, but you know, that's sometimes how it goes with articles. So one way to use the grid, okay? Hopefully you guys got some basics in laying out a page with a basic grid from this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.